Motorola and Nokia are regularly battling it out in the same areas of the market. They both offer phones at varying degrees of price, from the low end to the sort of mid-range market. Two of the most competitively priced models are the 5.4 from Nokia and the G10 from Moto, but which of those two should you get? I'm Cam Bunton from Pocket-lint, and in this video I'm hopefully gonna help you decide. And while you're here, if you could hit that like button, tap subscribe and the notification bell, that would be tremendous. Now, when it comes to the shape and size of the two phones, there's not really a lot to separate them. The Nokia is ever so slightly shorter and thinner than the Moto, and is lighter too, but not by a huge amount. Not enough to make a distinct difference anyway. What does make a bigger difference to the daily experience is the texture of the back. The two phones both use plastic cases, but Moto has gone with a ribbed design. That gives it a grippy texture, where those ripples on the case are actually subtly raised to give you a finish that's easy to grip onto. The Nokia, by comparison, is shiny and a bit more slippery. The Moto also has a bit more of a solid feel to it. Both the rear panel and the edges of the phone feel sturdier on the Moto than they do on the Nokia. Now, from a purely aesthetic point of view, there are some nice choices made by Nokia. Firstly, that subtle patterning on the rear plastic and the blue gradient on this model, plus the hole punch cut out for the selfie camera looks a little more modern than the notch in the Moto's display. Saying that, the camera housing on the Moto does seem to have a more purposeful design about it, even if it's not perfectly centered like the Nokia 5.4. Now, on a more practical note, Moto's textured power button is actually a really nice touch, and it makes it easier to find without looking. As for shared features, both have a Google Assistant button, and both have a 3.5mm port for headphones, and they also both have a micro SD card slot for expanding the storage. There are rear-mounted fingerprint sensors on the two phones as well. Both are reliable, although not especially fast. But that's to be expected at this end of the market, but we can't say one phone was clearly better than the other in this specific measurement. So displays, and again, there are similarities here. Both of them use the same IPS LCD technology, and both of them are 720p resolution, so when it comes to sharpness, there is no better one here. Saying that, Motorola's 6.5-inch screen is slightly larger than the Nokia's 6.39-inch, and has a slightly longer aspect ratio. But that's not to say that they're exactly the same in every regard, because they're not. Color reproduction is similar, but Moto's looks a tiny bit warmer at times when looking at my skin on this video. But for the most part, they're very similar with other colors, but what makes the biggest difference to the experience is actually the brightness. In our testing, with the display cranked up to full brightness, the Nokia is clearly the brighter of the two. That's even more noticeable if you're looking at it from a little bit of an angle. When your viewing angle changes and you're not looking at it directly head-on, the Moto seems to get darker much quicker than the Nokia does. Now, of course, being LCD means neither is fantastic outside in bright daylight, but the brighter panel is definitely helpful here. It just makes that experience a little bit, well, less terrible. What about other areas of performance? Well, the Nokia has the upper hand here as well because it has the more powerful processor. It's equipped with a Snapdragon 662, while the G10 has the 460. Although, if you do want a slightly more powerful version, there is the Moto G10, which has that same processor as the Nokia 5.4. But between these two, what it means in daily use is that things take a little bit less time on the Nokia. But neither is super speedy, and both load up Mario Kart Tour, for example, without too much of a struggle, even if you have to wait for it to load a little longer than you might like. One thing I did notice, however, was the Wi-Fi performance. The Moto seems stronger in this regard. For instance, I'd go upstairs to my bedroom, and the Moto would stay locked onto my Wi-Fi no problem, whereas the Nokia seemed to just lose it. It's a similar experience with battery life. Moto has a 5,000 mAh capacity, where Nokia has 4,000. That's a considerable difference in both spec and in real daily usage. That means that with moderate use, I can get to the end of a second day with the Moto. And for some light users, you might even just be able to squeeze out 3 days if you're a particularly light user. But if what you really need in a phone is just something that will get you through one full day, both of these phones have got you covered. Now, as more affordable phones, neither of these two is going to give you stellar photography, but they will offer similar experience when it comes to lenses. Both have a 48 megapixel primary camera sitting alongside an ultra-wide camera. Plus, they both have a low-res macro and depth sensor too. But when it comes to real results, there is no competition. The Nokia's is just the better camera. It produces more vibrant and sharper, colourful shots. The G10 primary sensor often seemed to just wash things out quite badly, and that meant it didn't match the ultra-wide colours at all. And this was noticeable even in bright daylight, where most cameras should be able to produce great shots, even if they're not particularly good cameras. So if you want better photographs, the Nokia is the one that outperforms its price tag here. Although I'd still say that the macro on both is pretty useless and not really worth using. But when it comes to software, there is a difference here. Moto's comes with Android 11 out of the box, whereas the Nokia is Android 10, even with the most recent updates, saying that Nokia has committed to long support and regular Android updates, at least for security patches. The thing worth considering here is that Moto has split up its G series range even more than it used to, and as long as you're able to put up with a poorer display and slightly slower performance, it could well be worth saving money getting the G10 over the 5.4. However, there's no denying the better speed and the display on the Nokia, as well as the better camera, and you'd expect that from a slightly more expensive phone. But here's the kicker: the Moto G30 exists, and that has a better display and a better processor than the G10, so you should also definitely check that one out. I've been Cam, I'm at Cam Bunton on social media. Let me know in the comments what you think of these two phones. Have you ordered one already, or are you still undecided? Or are you waiting for a new phone? Hit that subscribe button if you like this video, that'd be fantastic, and hit that thumbs up and tap the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any more of our videos. Bye for now.